I want to welcome you to another episode of Beyond the Surface Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Wanda Evans-Brewer. This afternoon, I wanted to discuss a heavy topic. This topic is untested rape kits. I was really alarmed to learn that in places like Manhattan, Memphis, Detroit, Texas, that there are thousands upon thousands of rape kits that are untested. In fact, in Manhattan had 400,000 untested rape kits. These are kits that have been backlogged full of DNA evidence for unsolved rape cases. Okay? In Memphis, they had over 12,000. In Detroit, the number was 11,000. In Texas, it was 20,000. These are all untested rape kits. So what's really worrisome and irksome and painful is that one, there's a real strong message being sent that rape isn't taken seriously. But it really functions as a second betrayal, because to get a rape kit, this means that that small percentage of people that feel strong enough to press through trauma and shame and pain submit to the physical exam. And for a woman, it's a gynecological exam. And so what happens is you get the vagina, the anus, the cheeks of the mouth all get swabbed. Any collection of skin, maybe you have skin that got up under the nails, hair, or any kind of bodily fluids that were shot anyplace else, all get collected and put aside in order to run it through a data bank to find out who the assailant is. Now, there are some police stations that have said, look, if we already kind of know who the assailant is, it actually isn't even worth running the tests, because the tests are expensive. Most of the tests, they cost between $500 to $1,500 just to test them. And my understanding is that for the most part, it takes about 3 to 6 months to get the data back. Now, the problem with that thinking is it's interesting to find out that many of the tests that have been run, because of the backlog and the fact that it's been exposed, there has been a push to begin to actually run through and find out the results of rape kits that are on file. And it's been interesting how many of them were full of serial rapists. So individuals who could have long been captured, taken off the streets, treated, whatever the issue is, whatever the consequence, penalty, whatever was going to become of them, these individuals got to really run rampant and really take on more victims. Now, one thing we have to know is that the mid-1980s brought us a game changer. And that game changer was the combined DNA index system that they call CODIS or CODIS. And essentially, it's 99% accurate for finding out if this DNA of skin, hair, nail, bodily fluid belonged to an assailant. And so we know that it works. See, this is something that we know that works. If this is your DNA, there's a 99%, and your name is registered with it, it shows up. 99% accurate possibility this is you. So we actually know we could solve a lot of crimes with this. So we got this incredible game changer that didn't exist before the mid-80s. And we're deciding not to use it. And we're not talking one or two states. We're talking about several states that have allowed these rape kits to just sit. And we have people who submitted to these rape kits, again, under tremendous trauma, physical pain. For example, there was a case of a woman, her name is Natasha Alezinko. She was in New York, who was raped. They held this woman's rape kit for 9.5 years. This is almost a decade. She was under the impression, because she had the foresight not to bathe, to not alter anything, and to submit to the gynecological exam, that the investigators were doing their job, and it turned out that they weren't, that they was just sitting in some storehouse gathering dust. There was a 16-year-old girl. Her name is Megan Yobus. Raped around her birthday. Her case also, she submitted to a rape kit. I'm sorry. Her kit also sat for 9.5 years untested. We have another woman, Pearl, 77 years old, legally blind, and she was followed home, beaten, punched in her face, raped, robbed, and believed for an entire decade, for almost 10 years, that they were working on her case. She's another person, in spite of her disabilities, fought very, very diligently to submit herself to the rape kit, and it was just gathering dust. So you can see why I refer to it as a second betrayal. So we have a legal system that says that rape is illegal, but we have procedures in place that give leeway for assailants to run rampant and continue to rape. So we're sending double messages. And someone that participates in that level of crime, they know that they've gotten away with it. They know, especially when you talk about decades. And in all of three of those cases, those assailants were serial rapists. What's interesting is Natasha Alexenko had the forethought to establish something that she calls Natasha's Justice Project. And it's a not-for-profit, and the whole focus of it is to diligently work on monitoring or seeing that the backlog with rape kits get dealt with. There's another organization that you probably should be aware of called inthebacklog.org. And it's another one that's a clearinghouse for information concerning backlogged rape kits. And these are all things, as I'm out learning and checking out stuff, and you find out things that just make you want to just puke. And this is one of them. Here's what you need to know. Rape kits, to have a rape kit done, is done free of charge. Okay? Now, again, when you know the identity, with these rape kits, they're always trying to decide whether they're looking for identity versus consent. They're looking at whether they're trying to identify an unknown assailant, or whether they're trying to establish whether this was a consensual exchange. So police are making decisions about whether or not they think individuals consented to a sexual act. Sometimes they're letting them sit there. Sometimes they wait and use the actually test the kit when they see that the case was particularly heinous. But most of them, a big chunk of them, honestly, never get looked at. They never get looked at. Why offer the rape kit for free and then not test it? We're talking DNA here. We're talking late 1970s, mid 80s, where we really, truly, got a break in terms of solving cold cases. And we've seen, even with individuals on death row and folks accused of all kinds of crimes where the DNA didn't match, and this has been a lifeline for many, many people. But apparently it has not functioned the same way for rape victims. This is important information. Anytime you hear Memphis, 12,000, Detroit, 11,000, in 2009, Detroit tested they did 1,600 backlogged rape kits, and of that, 100 of those people were serial rapists. And listen, they have been free to rape like they wanted to, okay? Cleveland has 3,985 backlogged, and of that, 170 have been tested and have been able to be matched with an assailant. We're in trouble, people. We're definitely in trouble. And these are things that are not readily talked about. I felt it vitally important to have this podcast we are living in an intense rape culture. Some of it's coming off of the effort to drink. It's sort of like drinking and drugs and rape culture are coupled together. Lots of women on college campuses have, and on college campuses, rapes have skyrocketed. And I'm going to be honest with you, some of that's an accountability issue because drinking with females has skyrocketed as well. And so, you get drunk women incapacitated, incoherent, and, then you get, fertile ground for unconsented sexual acts done to you. It's just amazing. It is absolutely amazing what goes under the radar and then what floats to the surface in certain scenarios. Now, the other reason I wanted to do this podcast, and I thought it was vitally important, is because it raised the issues of civility, of being civil and being decent. And so I thought a lot as I read the cases of like Natasha and Pearl and the 16-year-old girl Megan, who was raped around her birthday. I thought about their courage. I said, these are some powerful women. These are some incredible women because these were strangers that attacked them and violated them, and they managed through all of that trauma and pain to submit to the test, to do everything right. And so it brought me back to these issues of all these women who have come forward to deal with, to express that they were violated, that they were experienced a date rape drug with Bill Cosby. And so, once again, let me make it clear. I definitely do not, under any circumstances, forgive, let go, whether you're an entertainer or anybody else, forced, non-consented sexual acts on anybody. I don't condone it. I don't like it. I don't support it. But I also think there's an accountability issue here. I listened to these three women and I said, how do you find 20-something like-minded women who have far more access to power, financial support, resources, all agree to remain silent? And these lone, strange women, these lone, just lost, vulnerable women muster up the strength to at least do the rape kit. And so I realized, I said, wow, you have to go through, a vaginal exam, a rectal exam, you have to have your mouth swabbed, and all this is a part, and then the other portion is these intense questions about your conduct, what you knew, where you was at, what was said, what was done. I said, wow. These women are coming out decades later accusing this entertainer of having violated them, and they never even did a police report. And I said, all of this hoopla could be said and done had they even done a rape kit. And I'm, looking at this situation, I can't even say that the rape kit would have been looked at. Probably theirs would have been. They got the money. They have the media. They have access to attorneys. They have access to resources that these three average women didn't have. And it really boggled my mind. I said, we have to work very diligently to be decent and civil. And what I mean by that is there's a way to conduct yourself. There's a way to get things done. Why wait when the method, when the procedure, when there are things in place? Why wait a decade to complain about this man, to say that he violated you, when you for sure had some sort of fluid, some sort of hair follicle, something that could really bring him down? And so it raises an interesting thought about rape culture, individuals who advocate on behalf of themselves or advocate on behalf of other women. Like I thought about this woman, Natasha, young woman, life desperately changed, just drastically changed from this incident, and loved herself and other women enough to start Natasha's Justice Project to get through these backlog tests. I thought about Pearl, blind, blind in one eye, who, in spite of a disability, still saw that this test was looked at. And when all these women end up being contacted, by the way, because after a while, their test was a part of a backlog push through that found out who their perpetrator was, and they were dealt with. And so that's how I've come to know their names, because their cases actually did get solved on some level. And I said, wow, when we follow the procedures, it doesn't guarantee that we'll get the help and support that we deserve, but there is something there to prove that we were sincere, that there was something genuine, that this was not a joke for us. And so I come back to the Cosby case and I struggle. And my biggest thing is, I said, I just feel that many of the women involved in these cases are so low of character. There's not a dime that you could give these women to settle these cases. They really want this never to happen to anybody else. And so that's part of my sadness with the Cosby case being dealt with through the media as opposed to the court system, as opposed to having physical evidence. We have the technology to know if you were violated. We have the technology to know if the date rape drug was in your system. We have the technology for this stuff. And none of these women, all of these women seem to be cut from the same cloth, but I don't understand how mathematically that could happen. And so, it's not for me to say what happened or didn't happen, again, because these are all things being played out in the media as opposed to the legal system. But this is what I can say. For Natasha and Pearl and Megan, I know they were raped. I know they were raped because they said they were raped. I know they were raped because they submitted rape kits. I know they were raped because those rape kits confirmed an assailant who had raped others. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind. And so part of what I'm hoping people will get out of this podcast is the possibility of you being violated, manipulated, coerced, some sort of sexual trickery done upon you in this lifetime is really high. Pearl was 77 years old, coming home, minding her own business when she was raped. Natasha was 16, just coming of age. So, there's no limitations, age, race, weight, height, none of this stuff matters. Daytime, clothes on, clothes off, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The possibility is there. But what also is possibly there is that we can be the greatest advocates ever and leave a trail. Much like Hansel and Gretel, you just kind of just leave bread droplings so you can look back. We have to leave some sort of footprint, something to say, look, this wasn't right, and have proof of it that's beyond just he say, she say. So we're battling this stuff out in the media, and every day a different woman steps forward and says, oh, it happened to me, and I think it happened to me, and I believe it happened to me. And these women, Natasha, Pearl, Megan, have stepped forward as really courageous women and gone through the process and done it the right way. And who's speaking for them? The media never focused on this issue. 400,000 rape kits untested. But it's investing a tremendous amount of energy in the voices of women who did not follow procedure and speculation. We're still just dealing with accusations. We don't have any formal charges. We don't have any rape kit. We don't even have a police report. Wow. This falls again under the category I like to call weapons of mass distraction. I want to take my eyes off Bill Cosby's case. Here's the main reason. The statute of limitations are done. With Natasha's case, she almost missed actually sealing the deal on the case because it was at 9.5 years. And for her state, 10 years, the statute of limitations is up. She just made it. Okay. These are 30, 40-year-old, 20, 30, 40-year-old cases, the statute of limitations are up. Bill Cosby, 77 years old, about to be 78. He got a bad eye, bad back. He stays in job. I mean, there's literally nothing that we can do to him other than destroy his reputation, which, once the allegations came out at this level, that was pretty much done. But there's no greater penalty that can be given to him. And so what is this for? I know what these women stand for. They want these backlogs to stop. They want rape kits to be taken seriously. They want rape as a act of violence against women to be dealt with, respected in police stations. They want officers who have ignored cases, and it turns out many of the cases that went to the rape kits that went and sat on in the dust and sat in a pile were done by the same officers. They want those officers either better trained or removed from handling those kind of cases. I know what they want. I don't know what these women want with Bill Cosby. What do you hope to get from this? Well, some women, got a hefty check. I don't know that's what they wanted, but that's what they accepted. Overall, I don't know what they want. I just know that here's an example of women who have submitted themselves and survived not only rape, but a second betrayal. That's a lot. In a country that did not have to put them through that. And for these women that are accusing Bill Cosby, they should have half these women's hearts, half these women's courage to have stepped forward and at least written a diary or sealed a letter in a vault that showed on this date this incident occurred. I don't like the idea that rape can be somehow questioned to the point where we begin to almost not take it serious. That gets scary because then you see cases like this and you go, oh, but we need to take it very, very serious. So again, I started this podcast telling you that this is a heavy topic. It's not a fun topic, but it's an important topic. I don't know. I hope you got a lot from it. I learned a lot about needing to be diligent with my local police station, needing to make them accountable for these tests, needing to make sure that what they say they're doing in these cases are actually happening in these cases. And I do want to be a follower of endthebacklog.org. I'm going to keep a pulse on that, and I'll check back in with you at some point. And I want to actually check on Natasha's Justice Project again, because backlogged rape kits mean that we set other people up to be victims, and I most certainly do not wish this on anyone. You've been listening to Beyond the Surface Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Wanda J. Evans-Brewer, and until we chat again, be safe in God's grace.